Man in the studio. DJ Bien-Aime of ESPN.com, Houston Texans beat reporter. He's having a tough time taking me seriously. I'm sorry, I'm a vigilante that also hosts a sports talk show. I'm allowed to have a hobby. I'm allowed to do this on the side. I'm a billionaire, bitch. I can do what I want.
Yeah, DJ's just been laughing a lot. And I'm not going to lie, I've been sweating a lot.
I can only imagine. Your armpits are probably like drenched.
They're not great. The Old Spice is working hard right now.
Oh, man.
So, DJ, the Texans lose to the Carolina Panthers, who were winless 15-13 on Sunday. After the game, my first thought was, man, this is same old Texans in that they're coming off a bye week. The vibes are pretty good. They had beaten the Saints the week before going into the bye week. You're going up against an 0-6 team. On paper, you should win that game, even if it is two rookie quarterbacks going up against one another, and even if it maybe is a Panthers team that's not the worst in the NFL based off of what we saw on Sunday. Overall takeaway from that game, we were talking about it in the break just a moment ago. What did Sunday tell you about this team?
That they're not necessarily the team that destroyed the Jaguars and the Steelers, right? They're more in. They're actually they're not as bad as the team that lost on Sunday. They're kind of more in the middle, mainly because in the NFL. That's why I kind of get like a little annoyed with the whole "who did you beat" conversation, because okay, well, if we're going by that conversation, then the Texans are one of the best teams in the league, right? They beat the Steelers and the Jags by double digits, right? But in reality, they're not, right? They're more in the middle, and it's about wins and losses at the end of the day, and how you look in those wins and how you look in those losses. Obviously, you can easily say like, oh, they're 2 field goals away from being 5-2, right? If the Falcons kicker misses and the Panthers kicker miss, you're 5-2. But they made it. You lost those games, and in reality, you would probably think the game should have come down to that anyway, right? Because in both of those games, the defense played well enough to win both of those games. I think I got a stat from ESPN that the Texans, in the last 3 years, if a team holds an opponent to 15 or fewer points and 225 yards or fewer, they are 79-5. The Texans are in that 5. That loss, right?
And the defense, as you mentioned, it really did do its job on Sunday. It wasn't just the 6 sacks, 9 tackles for a loss.
Right.
And Bryce Young had his best game probably to this point. But I do think that's because Bryce Young's finally figuring things out. Thomas Brown, the new offensive coordinator for the Panthers, got Frank Reich very emotional after the game because of the game that he called. They did enough to win that game.
Right.
It does come back to the offense, and it's been interesting, DJ, just over the last less than a half week to see where we have gone when it comes to the range of emotions and takes on offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick. Friday, Laramie Tunsil's on with James Palmer of the NFL Network and is describing Slowick as a mastermind, and you're seeing people online saying, no, he sucks, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, because they don't want people to poach him away as the next head coach. And then after Sunday, in a game where Stroud really didn't throw the football down the field very much, and comments that we'll get to in a moment, they're looking at Bobby Slowick like he is this massive problem for the Houston Texans. And I think he falls somewhere in between both of those at this point in the year.
Yeah, I mean, I would even call him remotely even close to the problem. I don't necessarily think the Texans have like this gaping massive problem. I think the first 4 weeks, they were a top 10 offense from a yards perspective, and they were top 15 in points per game. But people are failing to kind of like realize is when you don't have tape on an offensive coordinator or a quarterback, that's going to give that duo an advantage. Mm-hmm. And after the first 4 weeks, teams will pick up on tendencies and start to play them differently. It's not a coincidence that after the 4th game, the offense no longer looked as prolific and explosive as it was. Now, teams have tendencies. Teams have an idea on what Bobby and CJ like to do on third downs. Because really, a lot of it comes down to what you do on third downs for the most part, right? Because that's the money down. And yeah, like now teams know that the Texans love to throw those in-breaking routes. They love to throw those over the middle.
I mean,
right?
Frankie Tutu was sitting back there knowing that was coming every single play.
Right.
He made a couple of good plays on it. He's a good linebacker.
Yeah, so, now teams are kind of taking that away. Now they kind of have to adapt, and that's going to take a little bit of time. Last week, obviously, you didn't have Robert Woods, who is CJ's safety blanket on third downs. So when you lose Robert Woods and now teams have a better grip on what you want to do, and again, this team had 2 weeks to prepare for you, so they also really know what you like to do. It's not a coincidence that the offense struggled a lot on Sunday.
That's fair. They also, though, the Texans had 2 weeks to get ready for this. The offense has been struggling the last 2 weeks. I mean, it took until the end of the Falcons game for them to really get going. They scored that touchdown before Atlanta scores the game-winning field goal drive. Against the Saints, Stroud was a sub 50% completion percentage. And in this game, once again, it feels like teams are just dropping a ton of guys back in coverage. So after the game, this is where it gets really interesting. You hear from C.J. Stroud at his press conference that even though he said afterwards, clarifying that he wasn't specifically calling out Bobby Slowick, he said that he wants this offense to be more explosive. He wants them to push it down the field. How did you interpret that, DJ? Did you think that was a shot at Bobby Slowick? Did you think that was just reasonable criticism of what the offense has been doing? Because Stroud is definitely a part of these struggles. I feel like it's kind of simplistic, the idea that they would just be able to chuck it downfield against a team that's throwing as many guys back. Seems like that to win against a team that is dropping a bunch of guys back in coverage, you have to successfully run on the ground. And the problem is, I thought on Sunday that the offensive line did not do a very good job in terms of run protection. I thought the Texans running backs were making things happen based off of their own skill for the most part. You saw Titus Howard miss a couple of pull blocks and stuff. Again, he's playing left guard. He should be playing right tackle. I feel like what Stroud wants, I empathize with it. I think every fan wants the same thing. But I don't know how realistic it is for this offense to all of a sudden just be explosive and chuck the football down the field.
Yeah, I think, teams, they were explosive to start the season, right? Stroud was averaging 303 yards passing through the first 4 weeks. And that's because he was able to push the ball down the field consistently. But again, like they didn't really know what they like to do. Now they know what they like to do to create those explosives. So I think the adjustment for Stroud specifically and Bobby is to kind of counter their counters, which is they're taking away the deep shots or taking away, not even necessarily like deep shots, right? Because when people say, when Stroud says push the ball down the field, right, people assume like he's like chucking it 30 or 40 yards down the field. He's more or less saying like pass the sticks, right, over 10 yards. But I think what now you have to, the maturation for Stroud and Bobby is, all right, they're giving us underneath stuff. Let's attack underneath. And now when their defense starts to creep up, now we take our shots over the top. So yeah, I mean, that's more or less, I would say. And then when you have those opportunities, you have to cash. Like when he threw the ball deep down the field to Nico, and they weren't able to connect. You know what I'm saying? Just those little things that more or less make the difference in whether you can get those explosives or whether you don't.
Concern level, because they're going up against the Bucs defense on Sunday that's good, and it has taken a couple of weeks now for this offense to figure out what it can do well. And I think a lot of people online are simplifying it, saying, well, abandon the run. Stop running the football.
That's like the dumbest take that I see when people say, just stop running the ball.
Totally
agree. Do people not realize the majority of the very good teams in the league can run the ball? Like, I get it. Like, yes, running back is not a premium position, but running the rock is a premium part of the offense. You cannot have, it don't matter who it is, whether it's Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, whoever, just dropping back and throwing the ball 50 times. That is easy for teams to defend. And yeah, you might have 1 week where, okay, the quarterback goes absolutely nuclear and it works. But that's not consistent for 17 games. I remember talking to a player in the Texans locker room that said, by the end of the year, we all know what plays the offense wants to run. We're smart enough, we understand all that. But the teams that can succeed are the teams that can run the rock, because even if you know the run is coming, there's nothing you can do for physicality, right? Like, if you about to get in a fight with somebody and you know they want to throw a 1-2. Okay, please. You know that, I'm going to turn to the Joker. But if they want to throw a 1-2-3, you know how it's going to come, jab, hook. But you have you can't stop it because the jab overpowering you and then the hook knocks you out. Even if you know it's coming, you can duck and dodge, whatever. But once one of those hits you, that's it. You feel me? Because you don't have the girth and the physicality to stop those punches, just like in the run game. If you can't dominate the line of scrimmage, it does not matter if you know the run is coming.
Can they do it with this offensive line? Because I feel like that's the problem. I don't want to dump on the running backs too much, but there has been definitely a criticism of Dameon Pierce over the last couple of weeks. We've even talked about it. But I really think that on Sunday, the running backs were not the problem. I thought Pierce, Singletary, and Mike Boone, all three of them made pretty good plays over the course of it in spite of the offensive line that was, I thought, not very good protecting them. And based off of the Pro Football Focus numbers, like the run blocking numbers for the Texans were not very good on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I think Like I remember talking to somebody about it, and I was like, maybe if they can get the run game going, but they were like, I mean, at this point, like we're in week 8, like it is what it is at this point. In terms of the run block, like just a whole run game together. So I don't really know if they can get it together there.